All right, welcome everyone. I've got a short yoga therapy practice for you today. We're going to be working on your feet, and specifically we're going to be working on waking up your big toe and getting your big toe a little bit more involved in standing. For this practice, I'm going to be using a strap. You do not need a strap. You could grab a similarly shaped item, dog leash, bathrobe tie, long scarf. I'll also offer some other options for some of the different points in the practice, but this is really just a tool. Don't worry about it too much if you don't have exactly this. The other thing that we'll be doing in this practice is we'll be using a check-in pose, and this is something I like to do with a lot of my clients because it helps us see where change is happening. So often when we're going through practice, change might be happening, but it might be kind of under the level of our awareness. In other words, we don't realize what we're doing is changing things in how we feel. And so when we use a check-in pose, we're able to compare as we go through the practice and notice what's changing. And that can be really helpful for then understanding which of these things is therapeutic for me. In other words, which of these things is helping me feel better when I'm doing the check-in pose. And that can be really, really valuable. So our check-in pose today is going to be Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. There's lots of different ways you can do this posture. What I'm going to suggest for today is that we just step the right foot forward and then leave the left foot more or less in the position it was in when you're standing. So for some of us, our bodies are going to want to turn that left foot way out. And that's to get around some mobility issues in the ankle. Nothing wrong with it. Just depends on what you want to do. For today, though, I'm going to suggest that you keep that foot kind of where it was when you were standing and then come forward with the other foot as far as you comfortably feel like you can. Totally fine to widen your feet side to side so that you feel a little bit more stable on the mat. And then you're really going to feel that back heel connected to the floor. From that back heel connection, you're going to bend into your front knee. And I'm not worried about this knee traveling in front of the ankle or anything like that. You want it to feel good, so you're going to make sure it feels okay. Maybe you're going to see if you can track that knee kind of toward the middles of your toes. But other than that, I just want you to feel comfortable here. And you're just going to notice what happens. Some of us are going to get toe gripping or toe flapping. If you want to take your arms up, you're absolutely welcome to add the arms of this pose, but we're going to be focused mostly on the legs. And then you're going to step back to your starting position. You're going to step the other foot forward, ground through that back heel. Widen your feet side to side as much as feels good. Bend the front knee as much as feels good. Just notice what you feel. This side might be quite different. So for me personally, I feel different sensations in my back leg. I have different level of stability, groundedness on this side. My toes are doing some stuff in that back leg. Maybe the front leg too. So you're just going to see what's happening, right? And that's your check-in. And then first thing we're going to do is wake up the big toe. So this one works best if you can reach your big toe, and that might mean sitting down on the floor. It might mean grabbing a chair. And, if you can't reach your big toe, totally fine to skip this part or to be creative in how you do it. So what we're going to do here, let me turn so you can see. What we're going to do here is we're going to broaden the big toe out a little bit. And then I'm going to massage here in the space between the big toe and the second toe. So I'm just gently using my fingers to massage in this space. Now this is a bony space, so we want to be kind. Also, the tissue in here can be really tight. So you're going to pay attention to what feels good. And then the other thing that you might do here after you've done that work is just to tap a little bit on the big toe mound, around the base of the big toe and on the bottom of the toe, or you can just gently rub in that area, just waking up this area a little bit, getting your brain tuned in by creating a little more sensation on the level of the skin. And then we might do the other side too while we're down here. So you're going to spread that toe a little bit, massage here on the top of the foot. The side's a little bit less sore for me. So you're just going to notice what you feel in your body. It's going to be a little bit different. So we're getting some nice stimulation here into the soft tissue, helping that toe maybe spread a little wider. And then you might also just rub or tap on that big toe mound and the pad of the big toe. If you feel like it's been a while since you did the other one, you can go back and do the other one again. You're just going to get that area stimulated. This just helps your brain pay attention. That's all it is, right? And then we're going to get up. And we're going to come right back in to that posture. Okay, so stepping forward, grounding the back heel, bending the knee. Noticing if you have different awareness even of that area around the big toe. And then, does that change anything? And change is not always better, right? It's not always change we like. And sometimes even as we change our body's function for the better, we might feel more wobbly as we do that. So notice if your brain says good or bad, right? We can do the other side. Notice if your brain has decided this is good or bad. And then also reserve judgment. Because change is change. So change is letting us know, hey, something happened here, maybe as a result of what I did. Especially if it shows up again and again, then maybe something's different here. Right? So you're just seeing how this pose feels, right? We're just doing the legs, but feel free to add the arms if you like. So that's the first thing. Second thing we're going to do here is work on some toe lifts. So some of this stuff you may not notice immediate change in your posture, but you might notice change over time. So that's another way you can use a tuck-in posture, is to do this over a period of days or weeks and notice what is changing over time. So I'm going to face the camera because I think that might be the easiest to kind of see. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gently spread my toes if that feels comfortable. I'm going to feel where my weight is on the bottoms of my feet. And I'm going to try to get balanced so that I have weight relatively even on my right and left foot. And that I have some weight in the balls of my feet and some weight back in the heels. And then I'm going to see if I can keep those 4 toes down and just lift the big toes up. I'm also going to notice what happens when I do this. So those 4 toes might have to press. We're getting a little stronger here on the bottom of the feet. We're going to try to keep that big toe mound down so we're not rocking all the way onto the outer edge of the foot. Base of the big toe is down. Pad of the big toe lifts up. And then I'm going to see if I can keep my pad on my big toe down, lift my 4 toes up. And again, I'm not rocking way in, so I'm trying to stay grounded through the base of that pinky toe. So you might go back and forth a few times. Now, for those people who find this really hard, there's a few things you can do. Do 1 foot at a time. Feel free to sit in a chair or on the floor and use your fingers to hold down the toe that's supposed to be staying down, or to help lift up the toe that you're trying to lift up. Okay? So we're just working through a few of these lifts. Something else you can do here, if you're finding this really hard, is you can place your strap. You can use a resistance band for this. Sometimes that feels really good. You're going to place that under your big toe. You're going to hold those 4 toes down and you're going to help lift the big toe with that strap. And then now you're going to push the big toe down, but you're adding a little bit of resistance. Now just pay attention to the bottoms of your feet. Sometimes we get crampy when we do this as we start to bring these muscles online. So go at your own pace. Now your toes are going to the gym, right? So you're providing a little bit of resistance. You're pressing that toe down. And as you're doing that, you're bringing some awareness to the muscles, kind of making that brain-body connection for yourself. And maybe even doing some strengthening over time, right? So don't forget to do both. So you're lifting up, and then you're resisting a bit as you press down. And you're just working on these. So for our purposes today, I'm just doing a few of these. If you find this is really helpful for you, you might do more. You might even do, 10 or more. You might even do a few sets of these. If you're really wanting to build this ability, you might need to repeat it more, right? So I'm just waking this up here. And then that's going to wake up the big toe in a new way too. So now I'm going to try that check-in pose, right? So stepping a foot forward, grounding through the back heel, bending the front knee, noticing that awareness through my toes, maybe adding the arms, maybe not. I'm just noticing what I feel. Or stepping back, coming to the other side. We're going to ground in through those toes. I'm going to bend that front knee and just notice what's happening. What are the toes doing? What are you able to feel? Anything change in how the posture feels or what's happening in it? And by the way, if nothing changes that you can perceive, it doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't helpful. It can mean a couple of things, right? It can mean this posture felt good to begin with. So maybe there's less space for change to happen. And it can also mean maybe there's something to work on that's different or instead of getting into the work with the big toes. So I'm going to do one more thing here. And this is for those of us who really find the toes flapping. It can be really helpful to place something under the toe for it to feel. And again, this is just really stimulating the nerves, giving us something to feel at the level of the skin. But it can really help us as we do this strengthening work in the toes to then keep the toes down. So really doesn't have to be, it can be anything. I'm just using a strap because I have one here already. I've done this with a coin. So, if you happen to have a coin lying around, you can put a coin under your toe. I'm going to do this under the front foot. And I'm going to assume that I'm someone who has a tendency to rock out. So I have a tendency to rock onto the outer edges of my feet. Maybe my big toes are kind of flapping or gripping around, and maybe the base of the big toe is coming up. If something else is happening in your foot, you might adjust this technique for what you're noticing. So I'm going to place something, and I'm just going to use the end of the strap here. I'm going to place it underneath the area that's lifting up. So under the ball and the pad of the big toe. And this gives me something to feel here. And then I'm going to come into the posture. I did step back instead of forward this time because I'm placing something underneath my foot. If you really want to enhance this and you have someone else around, have them just gently pull the strap like they're trying to pull it out from underneath you. And that'll give you even more awareness of what's happening. So we're going to try to keep the base of the big toe and the pad of the big toe down as we come into this posture. And you may notice the foot feels different. I'm getting a little bit of that pre-crampy sensation. This is also a foot for me that needs to do this work more. So I've had a few things going on in this foot. So I'm noticing that little bit of sensation in the arch. That's letting me know this is maybe a little bit different from how I'm normally doing this. Feeling really solid personally in this foot compared to usual. So that's nice. And then you'll want to do it with the other foot too. Even if, like in my case, this is maybe less of a prominent issue, I'm still going to repeat this with the second side. You could absolutely put something under the toe of the back foot. I don't know. The possibilities are maybe not endless, but there's lots of things you could do here. So, here too, feeling a little bit different here on this side, not getting that sensation in the bottom of my foot, but I am a lot more aware of what's happening in the big toe. And then sometimes it can be interesting after we've done this work to come into your check-in posture with no aids, right? And to see if you, right now, after you've given that stimulation to the bottom of the foot, if you now have the memory of what that feels like, so you can get that same engagement, that same sort of solid effort in the foot. This is not by any means the only way that we could work with the foot in this posture. So this is just an example. Something to play with, right? So that we have the opportunity to observe ourselves within the postures and to see what happens on a physical level and also in the whole rest of our experience. I hope you found this really interesting and helpful to play with. There might be questions, so feel free to ask them in the comments. I'd love to hear what happened if you give this a try. Please feel free to share and have fun with it. Feel free to be creative with it. Take really good care, and may we all be balanced and well. Thank you.